I made this stunning wig with braiding hair. Yeah, you heard me right. In this video, I will teach you how you can get your braiding hair to have this silky effect so you can have a perfect wig crafted for yourself. Hi love, welcome to the Glam family. I made use of a dumb cap to make the wig. So make sure you get yourself a dumb cap so you can use to make your wig. I place my dumb cap on my canvas blockhead so I can go ahead and construct the wig. First thing you have to do is to make sure you properly place your cap on your canvas blockhead as so. So after that, you have to go ahead and sew your wig. This is the closure we ventilated in the live section. So we're going to be using it for the wig. When you want to place your cap on your lace closure on your canvas blockade, make sure you look out for the lines. That very middle line you have, that is where you're going to be placing the middle of your closure, just as so. That's what you have to do. So it's going to give you a like an illusion that you have it on the center part of a human head. That's what you're supposed to do. So you turn to the back part of it as well, so you'll be able to place the back. You have to make sure your back is flat just as the front, because you will need a very flat closure so you don't have bumps when you wear your wig. So make sure you place it. Do not drag it, just place it flat so you don't have any bumps. So go ahead to pin the back just like you did the front on the middle part using your T-pins, office pin, whichever works for you. But I made use of office pin because T-pins actually it's a bit difficult to work with them because of the top part of it. You can easily tear your lace if you're not careful. So go ahead to pin the front part as well, just as so. So make sure you're placing it just like this. Do not drag it, just make sure you're trying to place it very flat. Okay, so I went ahead to use the T-pins to secure the down part. Just like you did in the back, the middle part, you have to do it to the two sides at the both ends to make sure you lay it flat. You go to the other side and you pull it to make it flat so you can pin it down. Like I said, don't pull too hard, just pull enough to know that it's flat on your cap. Okay, so that's what you have to do. After doing that, you will have to make sure you take the hair and put it up so it doesn't get on your way while you're trying to sew your lace closure into the cap. I'm done laying it. So make sure you lay your closure as a beginner, lay it flat and slowly, and you're going to get it right. So what you have to do next is to sew down your closure. That's what I'm doing. So make sure you take your needle and thread and begin to sew down your closure to your wig cap. By doing that, you're going to be showing very close to where the ventilated piece of closure stops. You see that part where I'm sewing on, you're going to be sewing very close to where the hair stops from the lace. So make sure you sew it down. But when you're sewing on the elastic part of this hair, you can see the difference between the back of the cap and the front part. You can see that this part is a bit darker. That's because there is an elastic band at the back. I always say this because you can't sew on the elastic band. You have to sew on the cap. The cap is placed on the elastic band. The elastic band is at the back. So you have to make sure you're going to be sewing on the cap and not the elastic band. So make sure you're taking your time to sew that. So make sure you're taking your time to stitch as well, because you're not going to be rushing and sewing your closure part. You can sew your back whatever way you want, which I will still advise you to make, because I like to make my beads in a way that when I'm done, I'm going to admire the good work I've actually done, right? So make sure you take your time to do whatever you're doing. When you are sewing your wig, make sure you're taking your time to do it. Whatever you're doing, do it well. So I have to stitch well. So make sure you stitch yours well as well. Okay. So this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be sewing my closure from the beginning of the closure, the front going to the back. That's what I'm going to be doing. That's what I did. So make sure you sew very close to where that ventilated hairs stop, so you can have a tight and flat hair to work with. I actually had to take off the hair and go ahead to weave it down because it was actually giving me stress. of like this, the hairs were getting into the way while I was sewing, so I just had to take it down, and this was what I got. So you can actually go ahead to weave your hair down before sewing, because the pinning with the clip, it's going to like be a little, and all that. To avoid that, just make sure you weave it down. So this is what I did. So you're going to be sewing from the back, the front coming to the back, and then to the other way. So when you're done sewing, this is what you should have. This is what your clothes should be looking like. Very flat and properly laid and stitched down to your wig cap. What I did next was to go in with my measuring tape so I can be able to draw my guidelines, because I love to work with guidelines, because I actually like when the interior part of my wig is looking very neat and fine and on point. So this is what I did. So you're going to pick down the beginning of your wig, your tape to the back, and I went ahead to kind of draw lines of half inch. Like I went in with half inch because I wanted the front of the wig to be covered, because this is the part where people get to see when you're done with your hair, when you wear it on your head. Do you understand? So I went in to grow half an inch for the front part. Okay. Then for the back part, I went ahead to do 1 inch, because no one is going to be seeing the back. So your concentration should be up of the wig. Okay, that's what you should do. Then you go ahead to connect it to the front part of it, the lines you've rolled, just as so. You're not going to be concentrating at the back, because who is going to see the back of the hair? But of course, you still have to sew it properly. But I don't like take the back side, smaller sizes, smaller lengths of guidelines, because I know it's not going to be way. Your concentration should be in front. Okay, I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think I'm passing a message that someone should understand. This is how it should look when you're done with both sides. Then you take off the tape and begin to connect the lines in the middle, because of course you're going to be sewing everything together, so you can't leave the middle like that. So make sure you go ahead to connect it, and this is what you should have. So we're going ahead to sew the wig proper now, right? So for you to sew your wig, of course, you'll be needing your needle and thread to sew your wig. Actually, the bundles, I made it off camera because I didn't want the video to be too lengthy. I'm doing styling, I'm doing wigging, I'm doing cutting and all that. So I didn't want the video to be too lengthy, but I'm going to put the video of of making bundles, because I have it on my channel. I will leave it on the description box so you can check it out and learn how to do yours yourself. So make sure you check out that video, or I will leave it at the end of the video so you can check it out. Of course, you need bundles, so make sure you watch that video to learn how to do yours. For me to do that, for me to sew my wig, I begin to stitch on with my needle and thread by securing the very first part of the wig. I actually like to fold the back of my wig into two, like double weft it, because it gives me that thickness at the back. So the very first weft I'm showing is actually doubled. As you can see, it's actually doubled. It's not just one. I folded into two, but just like half of it, making just one line of the folding, and that's what I did. So you have to sew your wig following your guidelines. This is the essence of having guidelines, because you have to follow them and get a straight line while sewing, instead of just sewing all over the place. How you have to have a perfect wig to sew on. So make sure you have your guidelines to work on. So when you get to the edge of a wig when you're sewing, for you to get to like the other line, you don't need to cut your weft. Of course, this is not a human hair. If when you watch the video of the making of the bundles, you understand what I'm trying to explain, because you cannot cut the end of this weft just like that. You have to turn it over. So for you to turn it over, you have to put the weft in between the guideline down and the guideline up. You want to put it in between so that you can get like just like so. So when you're going to turn it over, when you're sewing from the down, you move it up a bit so that it can be in the middle of those two lines. So when you're trying to turn it over, to fold it over, you're going to meet it with the next line you want to start sewing on, just as I'm doing. So it is very simple on how to do that. So you have to just turn it over like this so you don't end up cutting your weft. You can also do this to your human hairs, because some customers don't like you cutting their hairs while you're making their wigs. They won't let you cut their wefts. So you have to learn to turn over. So make sure you turn over your hair when you're sewing. Don't just cut it when you sew to the end of a particular line, then you cut it the next line. No, you're going to destroy the client's hair. So make sure you turn it over. This is an easy way for you to be able to turn over your wig, just splitting it in the middle of those two lines, the two guidelines, then you sew it to the next line so you can actually fold over and begin to sew. As simple as that. That's very simple. So make sure when you're sewing, you actually use your T-pins or whatever pins you have to secure the hair to the body of the cap so you can easily sew, so you can have an easy and comfortable journey while sewing. I hope I make sense by saying that. So that's what I'm going to be saying, right? So I'm explaining this part. So I'm going to be showing the rest of the week offline, off camera, so that the video is not going to be too lengthy, so we can have the right knowledge you're supposed to have about doing what you're doing. So after sewing on every guideline I had, this is the part we have to take seriously, because you need to close that part that is meeting the closure and the bundle. So you take a weft of hair and you begin to sew down on that spot. You know, that very spot that you sew down your closure, that very line, that's where you're going to be sewing your hair weft on, so you can close the gap between your closure and your guidelines you've sewn, the tracks of hair you've sewn. So to do that, you just need to take your needle and thread, just as so, sewing on that same line you sewed on the closure, just as I'm doing. That's what you have to do. So make sure while you're doing that, you're taking your time to do it. I always talk about taking your time to do something, especially as a beginner, because when you're trying to do something, you're doing it in a hurry, or you're trying to do it in a way of feeling frustrated. Everything is going to go bad. You just need to take your time to do it so that you can learn how to do it and perfect it as well. As far as you're practicing something, you don't need to be in a hurry to do it. So just make sure you take your time to do it. That's what I do. So you're going to sew all the way to the other end. That's what you're going to be doing. So you sew from, like you're sewing on that very line, just as so you can have that. So I went ahead to sew the rest of camera, and this is where you have to end your sewing. So to do that, I have to move some of the hairs on the line so I'll be able to secure the end. Of course, I can't just cut out this end of the hair, because if I cut it, the hairs are going to be pulling up. So I have to cut it off so I can be able to secure the end of the hair. So that's as simple as that. You just need to join them together so that at the end of the day, you're going to have a secured end. So loves, there's this thing I did, right? I had so many comments on videos about hair ventilation, about wigging, about different topics. I've not been able to, like, I've been able to reply some, but I think most persons don't get a response in time. So I created a group. I'm going to be dropping the link in the description box. So as you're watching this video, you can click, or when you're done watching, you can click on the description box so you can check it out and click on the link so you'll be able to join that group so we can have discussions, share ideas. I'm going to be answering you things that you you drop that you didn't get response to. You understand? You can drop into the group hairs that you've watched from my channel and you want to try to recreate. When you do that, you can show me the results there so I can be able to correct you if there's any error while you did what you did on your hair. So make sure you join that group and we're going to have it from there. Okay, so for you to end the sew, you don't have to cut your thread as at the beginning of the closure, like the front part of the closure. So you're going to be doing what I did while watching this. Okay, so you're going to be taking it back of the weft so you can sew it, so the thread, when you cut it, it doesn't come up, because it's actually the front part. I'm actually very careful when it comes to the front part of the hair, because that's what is going to either make or break your wig. So the remaining parts of the weft, I just have to take it and put at the back, because I didn't want it to go to waste. But if you're tired of sewing, you can leave it, but just come on, it's your hair, right? So put it there. So I went ahead to sew on that line, and that was it. So we're done making the hair, right? This is going to be the front part, the styling. I always like styling because it's like when I'm done styling, I have this joy, I have this feeling of, I don't know how to express it, but I feel very happy, and I don't just know how to explain it, but I feel, I don't know the right words to say. I'm sorry guys, but at the end of the day, when I'm done styling your hair, I feel, let me say, I feel happy. Yeah, I feel fulfilled, because at the end of the day, like, you look at the beautiful thing you've created and you'll be like, yeah, I did this. So make sure you follow every step and you'll be able to do that. So go ahead to detangle your hair. I always talk about detangling because you have to detangle your hair. You can't work with a matted hair. Do that. So how to get the silkiness right? Of course, you're going to be using hot water, but make sure your water doesn't get really hot. If you can allow it not to get boiled before using, you just have to monitor it. It will be okay. But if you want, if you didn't really monitor it for it to like be a hot water, like a hot water, but not too hot, you can let it boil, just leave it for some minutes before using it. Of course, you can see me dipping my hand because I can be able to touch it because the water is not really hot. I don't like my hairs to lose that very fiber, like the original fiberness that came with the hair. I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to use, but you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So you take out the hair and you place it on a mannequin head, or you can just hold it in your hand and begin to detangle. Always detangle your hair. So you're going to detangle this hair properly so you can take it outside or you can keep it for some time for the hair to dry. Then this is where you cut off the excess part of the hair. I always talk about this part because you cannot you cannot leave your hair, you cannot leave your cap, the back of your lace like this to wear. Okay, don't do that. Don't ever do that. I had a client I worked on a wig like for, and at the end of the day, I had to cut it off. I contacted her and I told her, why do you have this on here? She said she didn't know that was how they wig the hair and gave it to her. When I did that, I gave the hair back to her. She was very happy because like, she was like, oh, I want this hair and it's looking a bit different. I did that. I was like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's meant to be. So make sure you take off this excess part of your cap. You can't wear your hair with the back of the cap on the lace. You're supposed to have that scalpy effect. That's why we ventilated the hair in the first place. Of course, for the ventilation, that's why I want you guys to join that group because we have a plan on how to ventilate it on a live section. So make sure you join that group so we can agree on a date for me to go live so I can show you guys on how to ventilate. You can still join the group so I can drop tips on how to ventilate your closure. You can see the difference now when I cut off the back of the cap and before when it was there. So that was what I did. So what you have to do is to just place it back so we can go ahead and style this hair to have the stunning results we had in the beginning. So that was what I did. So I went ahead to just secure the lace in front so I can go ahead to detangle and style my hair. Guys, don't worry, you already seen the result, but don't worry. When you do yours, please, I want you guys to just join that group. So at the end of the day, we can share our results. You can share your results with me, and I'll be very happy to see every beautiful creation you're going to do that to me or for yourself for me to see. I don't know. I'm just happy making this video. I'm saying too much at the same time, but I can't wait for you guys to be in that group because I would want to interact with you people. I want to know you guys. You guys have taken me this far, has brought me this far, and I'm really happy for what you guys are doing. Every video I post, you come, you watch, you comment, and you do everything. I'm so grateful. I love you guys so much. So I want to connect more with you people. So be in that group. The group is going to be created. Let's say it's going to be created before this video is posted. So the group will be existing when you watch this video. So make sure you check the description box and join the group. So next thing you have to do is go in with your hot tool so that you can style your hair. While styling your hair, make sure you regulate your hot tool. You're not going to have a beautiful sew in and at the end of the day spoil it with a hot tool that is going to mess up everything. So just make sure you go ahead and style it with a regulated hot tool. If you can't really regulate it, if it's too hot for your synthetic hair, you can get a synthetic hair friendly hot soap. But if you can't get that, just make sure to regulate it by putting it off, checking how hot it is before going to do that. I'm going to be straightening this hair off camera. Like I said, the video is already lengthy, so I don't want it too lengthy for you also. I had to cut that part of it. So let me make this hair by let me do that off camera and I'll be back to cut with you guys. So when I was done straightening the hair, this is what I did to have that scalpy effect, to have that effect of like you're growing, you're wearing a cap that doesn't look like it's a cap, but it's growing out of your hair. This is what you have to do. Take your shade of foundation, or you can get a lace tint. I always come up with affordable things so you guys can actually have what to work with. So you have to put this on a brush so you can use it on your head. Make sure you're using a shade of foundation that is very close to your tone, or even your tone of foundation, so it doesn't look like you're having something else on your hair. So go ahead to lightly rub it on the lace. Don't press against it so it doesn't come out at the other side of it. Okay, so make sure you just rub it slightly on it, and this is what you're supposed to be having. Like, the difference is already clear, right? This is what you're supposed to be having. So go ahead to do that on your hair. Make sure the foundation is not too much and you don't press it against it so it doesn't come out the other side. Look at this hair. Look at this goodness. This looks good. We're not done with it, and it's already looking like this. So I went ahead with the same foundation so I can use it to kind of define the middle part. I always like when my middle part is defined. So I went ahead with my hand to kind of roughly scrub against it so it doesn't leave like a line that is showing that I applied the foundation there, if you understand what I mean. So I went with my wax stick, then rub it on my hand to lighten it up a bit, because of course synthetic hair cannot really process this product I'm using, but of course we have to use it on it, so you have to lighten it up and apply on the hair just as so. So next you have to do is to actually take a hot comb and begin to flatten it. My hot comb got burned the same day the coiler got burned. So I saw a video where someone said we can put our hot comb on a gas to make it hot and we can use it. I did that and it actually worked magic. I'm so glad like I didn't waste this hot comb by throwing it just like the coiler. That was what I did, and it worked perfectly. So you have a hot tool that's hot, that is no longer working with electricity. Make sure you mix up your gas to have your money used and not wasted. Okay. So I went ahead to cut the hair. I know most of you be wondering, okay, you showed us a 12-inch hair. Why is it like looking long? I wanted a 14-inch hair actually. But while cutting it, I was like, why would I want to do a 14-inch hair with a synthetic unit? I was like, okay, it's either your hair is short or it's long, and that's how it looks good on synthetic. So while cutting the hair, I was like, no, I wanted a shorter length, so I did a short end. This is what I want to state where you're cutting the hair. Do not cut on the exact line you want, the exact length you want. I did a 12-inch. I started cutting from 12.5, like 12 and up, so I can correct it. When you chop off your hair, you can no longer put it back. So make sure you have an excess you can always take off. Okay, make sure you start on a part that you can always be able to correct it when you make mistakes. Do not cut on the exact length you want. In case you make a mistake, you might get what you do not want because you're going to be cutting above it. This is how the hair looks when I was done cutting. So, loves, this is the moment of truth. This is how we're going to see how this hair looks on me, right? Yay! It looks good, and I'm so happy, guys. I want you guys to be in that group. So when you create yours, you're gonna send me your result, and I'm going to assess it. This weekly looks so good. So at this point, you haven't subscribed to this channel, my love. You need to join this family. So hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this hair in the comments, because I really want to know your honest review about this hair, your honest opinion about this hair. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Do well to turn on your post notifications so when I post, you're gonna be notified of the next time I drop a video. I was so happy. I was so like I had smiles all over my face because of course this hair looks so good. Who's gonna tell this actually a synthetic hair? Like it's made out of breeding hair. Do yours and let me know. I'm going to see you guys in my next one. Bye.